Naoya Inoue has evolved into one of the most riveting figures of modern boxing, a presence whose name evokes admiration, tension, and a quiet fear that most opponents only confess after their defeat. Widely known as the Monster, he carries a nickname that signifies far more than brute strength or knockout power. It represents a fighter who has mastered nearly every layer of the sport: the subtle manipulation of distance, the sudden angles that disorient even seasoned veterans, and a form of timing that appears to defy the natural reflexes expected at the elite level. Many boxers build their reputations on resilience or sheer force of will, grinding through adversity until the final bell, but Inoue's legacy has grown from a blend of precision and efficiency that leaves opponents wondering whether they had any real chance from the opening round. At 32 years old, boasting an unblemished record of 31 wins and 5 major world titles spread across multiple divisions, he stands among the top tier of champions in boxing history. Yet what many fans treasure most is how he responds to arrogance. He does not bark back at insults, nor does he take part in dramatic exchanges at press conferences. Instead, his form of retaliation unfolds inside the ring. Fighters who underestimate him or dismiss his achievements often discover that their words have sharpened the focus of a competitor already known for extraordinary discipline. When a rival shows disrespect, Inoue does not simply aim for victory. He aims to correct assumptions with clinical brutality. This theme has appeared repeatedly throughout his career, and one of the most memorable examples came in his highly anticipated encounter with American champion Steven "Cool Boy" Fulton. The fight took place at Tokyo's Ariake Arena, where anticipation pulsed through the crowd. Japanese fans admired Fulton's skills but had not forgotten the remarks he made in the build-up to the bout. He had implied that the excitement surrounding Inoue was partly manufactured, inflated by the support of a loyal home audience rather than grounded in genuine superiority. Whether Inoue was truly irritated was difficult to read because his composure rarely cracked. However, once the bell rang, it became clear that those comments had not been ignored. If anything, they served as silent motivation. Fulton entered the ring with a strategy that relied heavily on his height and reach advantage, especially his well-regarded jab. Analysts had frequently praised him for his ability to dictate range, smother an opponent's rhythm, and maintain control with measured accuracy. Many believed that maintaining distance was his clearest path to victory. Yet from the first minutes, the pattern unfolding contradicted that plan. Surprisingly, it was Inoue's jab, quick, incisive, and unrelenting, that took command. Each time Fulton attempted to establish a tempo, Inoue countered with an impeccably timed shot, forcing him backward or off balance. The Tokyo crowd roared with each exchange, but their cheers merely punctuated what was already obvious inside the ring. Fulton had misread not only Inoue's speed, but also his ability to anticipate movements almost before they happened. The match became a demonstration of a sharper mind meeting a skilled fighter who expected a slower pace. By the end of the opening round, the shift in Fulton's demeanor was unmistakable. He had entered with genuine belief, telling everyone who would listen that he planned to dominate Inoue, even insisting that the Japanese star was too small to trouble him. Inside the ropes, however, those words dissolved. He now confronted a fighter who understood spacing on an advanced level, adjusting fluidly and attacking with precision that left little room for confidence. No knockdowns or dramatic moments occurred in that first round, yet Fulton returned to his corner wearing the expression of someone who had stepped into something deeper than expected. The second and third rounds intensified this internal conflict. Fulton tried to mount more aggressive offenses, attempting to impose his physical advantages, but he was consistently met by a sharper, more calculated response. Whenever he opened up, Inoue surged with counters that were both powerful and deceptive in their simplicity. The footwork of the Japanese champion created subtle shifts that made him nearly impossible to track. Fulton's punches, once thrown with assurance, grew cautious. His posture tightened, his shoulders stiffened, and each movement revealed the slow unraveling of his earlier confidence. Observers noted that Fulton was no longer initiating the exchanges. He was reacting to them, and the psychological advantage swung entirely in Inoue's favor. A particularly telling moment arrived in the fourth round when a clean jab landed squarely on Fulton's nose, drawing blood. Though the strike was not devastating in itself, it symbolized the mounting dominance Inoue had established. Fulton's guard was firm, his movement deliberate, yet Inoue discovered gaps that seemed too small to matter. With every precise connection, Fulton's hesitation grew. Analysts watching the fight pointed out that he appeared less concerned about missing punches and more focused on avoiding the harsh replies that inevitably followed whenever he attempted to let his hands go. That shift in mentality marked a critical point in the outcome of the fight. When a boxer becomes more preoccupied with survival than strategy, the path to recovery becomes nearly impossible. Despite this, Fulton showed admirable heart in the sixth round. He attempted a resurgence, landing several clean right hands and initiating exchanges that briefly slowed Inoue's momentum. For a moment, the match looked competitive again. Both the crowd and commentators acknowledged Fulton's courage. Yet every spark of hope he produced was immediately extinguished. After landing a solid right hand, he found himself struck almost instantly by a sharper combination that reminded him of the hierarchy unfolding in the ring. The statistical output made the dynamic even clearer. Fulton had thrown roughly 180 punches in 6 rounds, while Inoue had already unleashed around 300, dictating not only the pace but also the psychological rhythm of the fight. Round 7 continued this pattern. Fulton landed perhaps his best blows of the night, but Inoue's responses overshadowed them effortlessly. Not once did he allow momentum to swing in the American's direction. It was a display of dominance built not solely on power, but on controlling the cadence and the emotional temperature of the contest. By forcing Fulton onto the defensive mentally as well as physically, Inoue tightened his grip on every aspect of the match. Then came the 8th round, where Inoue unveiled a shift in temperament. Up until that moment, he had engaged in a calculated chess match, breaking down his opponent with patience. Now, he surged forward with a renewed ferocity, as though he had determined that the time for subtlety had passed. A perfectly placed right hand struck Fulton on the chin with extraordinary precision, dropping him to the canvas. Fulton rose, fueled by determination more than stability, but the damage had been done. Inoue sensed vulnerability. What followed was a relentless assault, a series of brutal combinations that left the referee no choice but to intervene. The monster had delivered his verdict. This theme of punishing underestimation surfaced again in Inoue's fight against Antonio Neves. Before their 2017 bout, Neves expressed confidence in a manner that bordered on dismissive. He suggested that Inoue's impressive reputation came from fighting opponents who did not move enough, implying that the Japanese champion benefited disproportionately from fighting at home. Ironically, that fight took place in Nieves's home country instead, stripping away any notion of geographic advantage. Still, the outcome remained unchanged. Neves entered the ring with a strong record and a reputation for durability, leading some to believe he could push Inoue into deeper rounds. The first round appeared competitive on the surface. Neves moved energetically, sought exchanges, and attempted to disrupt the rhythm of the fight. His strategy focused on preventing himself from becoming a stationary target, circling and probing with his jab. Yet even in those early moments, Inoue's superiority was unmistakable. His shots held more snap, his feet moved with greater fluidity, and his body shots carried a weight that left Neves visibly aware of the threat. Although the round ended with both fighters fresh, the tone had already been set. The second round produced a decisive shift. Neves landed a couple of clean punches that drew a reaction from Inoue, not of frustration, but of awakened intensity. Instead of discouraging him, those strikes provoked a more aggressive response. Inoue began applying pressure with greater force, launching combinations and delivering body shots with a level of cruelty that altered the atmosphere in the ring. Near the end of the round, a heavy combination left Neves visibly stunned. Viewers sensed the arrival of the monster, the version of Inoue that emerges when competitiveness mixes with irritation. The third and fourth rounds unfolded with increasing inevitability. Neves attempted to stay mobile, circling and raising his guard, but Inoue dissected him with surgical accuracy. Openings that should not have existed suddenly became targets, and Nieves's punch output decreased dramatically. His breathing grew heavier after each body shot, and his frustration became clear. The combination of physical damage and mental pressure pushed him further into survival mode. A defining moment arrived in the 5th round. Inoue delivered a devastating left hook to Nieves's body, landing with such precision that it sent him to one knee. Though he rose, his expression revealed the depth of the pain. Inoue continued targeting the body with unrelenting force. Another powerful left hook folded Neves again, compelling him to look toward his corner for salvation. Recognizing that their fighter had little left to offer, his team threw in the towel. It was an act of mercy more than strategy. Years later, another challenger, Paul Butler, attempted to approach Inoue with a disciplined strategy rather than arrogance. Butler was the WBO bantamweight champion, experienced and technically sound, and many believed he would provide a difficult challenge. From the start, Butler adopted a defensive plan, retreating behind a tight guard and refusing to exchange. His aim was to frustrate Inoue, limit damage, and create opportunities through patience. In theory, it was a logical plan. In practice, it became an exercise in endurance rather than competition. Inoue methodically broke him down with jabs, feints, and combinations aimed at opening cracks in Butler's guard. What irritated Inoue was not disrespect, but the lack of engagement. He motioned with his arms at one point, urging Butler to fight, but the English champion remained reluctant. Inoue refused to grow reckless and instead intensified his pressure with intelligence. Butler remained upright, but the accumulation of precise punishment broke him down. In the 11th round, Inoue unleashed a combination so forceful that Butler collapsed. He attempted to stand but lacked stability, leaving the referee to call an end to the match and crown Inoue the first unified 4-belt bantamweight champion. Other opponents fared much worse. Yoan Boyeaux entered with confidence yet failed to survive beyond 3 rounds. A brutal left hand sent him down early, and in the 3rd round, a barrage of liver shots ended his night. Juan Carlos Payano lasted an even shorter time, falling to a single right hand just 70 seconds into the fight. Spectators were stunned by the swiftness of the knockout, a testament to Inoue's ability to end a fight before an opponent has time to adjust. Through all of these contests, a distinct pattern becomes clear. Naoya Inoue is not simply dominant, he is exacting. Disrespect sharpens his focus, caution tests his patience, and arrogance invites destruction. Those who belittle him in the build-up often leave the ring transformed, humbled by a fighter whose combination of power, intelligence, and merciless precision places him in rare company. His legacy continues to grow, shaped not only by victories but by the manner in which he earns them, with clarity of purpose, mastery of craft, and a relentless refusal to let pride go unchallenged.